All courtesies observed, dear Presidents, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and greetings to all who are participating in person, or like me, coming at you through the exigencies of the ether. My remarks today are delivered as part of my central commitment to the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14, known as SDG 14, our universal goal to conserve and sustainably use the ocean's resources. I'll also be addressing the surge towards the sustainable blue economy and how this must overcome the challenges of the climate crisis and the vested interests dragging at the heels of progress. Why do we need to invest in the sustainable blue economy? Because it represents the future of humankind. If that sounds like hyperbole to you, I'll expand on these opening remarks. But firstly, let us recognize that while the UNFCCC COP26 in Glasgow made significant advances, we are still on a very dangerous trajectory. The imperative of not exceeding 1.5 degrees global warming becomes increasingly tenuous with each belch from a coal-fueled power plant. And with each passing year without wholesale radical transformation of human consumption and production patterns in this critical decade, we're propelling our children and grandchildren towards fire, flood, and famine. And so why is the sustainable blue economy essential to humanity's future? Because the ocean tides and currents, waves and winds can provide us with all the renewable energy we need many times over. Because in the fast approaching post-antibiotic age, science points to the ocean's properties, the majority of which are still unknown to us, as the pharmaceutical frontier. Because with changing conditions for agriculture on land, sustainable aquatic foods will provide our future nutrition through new forms of food from ecologically farmed seas and coasts. And it may even be that global warming will drive many of us to choose to live on and under the ocean rather than in overheated terrestrial settings. This aquatic future is as it should be on a planet which is over 90% of the living space, on which over 90% of the living space is in water. And so I say, from the decarbonization of shipping to the safeguarding of coastal cities and agriculture in the face of steadily rising sea levels, the time for transformational investment in the sustainable blue economy has arrived. SDG 14 is prominently spoken of as the most underfunded of all the SDGs. We must change that statistic as if our futures depend on it, because they do. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this year the global community has an unprecedented opportunity to take transformational action, ocean action, and the key to success lies in the hands of UN member states and their leaders worldwide. They are called upon at this critical time in history of humankind to join the international consensus necessary to ensure a healthy ocean for generations to come. You will have heard the mantra, no healthy planet without a healthy ocean, and the healthy ocean is measurably in decline. Well, the year 2022 represents the best opportunity we have to stop the decline, and I'll explain why. To start with, our best hope of reversing the decline in the ocean health is to comprehensively implement the Sustainable Development Goal for the Ocean, SDG 14, which is itself integral to achievement of the complete package of our universally agreed 2030 agenda. SDG 14 action is urgently needed in areas ranging from pollution and habitat destruction to overfishing and the harmful effects of greenhouse gas emissions. There is, in 2022, an unprecedented lineup of multilateral meetings at which international convergence of purpose for the common good can deliver success for SDG 14 and stop the decline in the ocean's health. The main 6 of these meetings are as follows. Firstly, the upcoming World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference, after 2 decades of negotiations, has the ability to remove all harmful fisheries subsidies. Imagine that. We currently spend $20 to $30 billion worth of public funds annually on these subsidies, primarily for the enjoyment of industrial fishing fleets at a time when global fish stocks are 34% overfished. Think about how those funds could be so much better spent on the sustainable coastal and marine projects like supporting the commercial entry of women into seaweed farming and other sustainable aquaculture industries. Secondly, at the end of this month, the United Nations Environment Assembly reconvenes. This is UNEA 5.2, at which we have the breakthrough opportunity of initiating negotiations for a binding international treaty to stop plastic pollution. In the drive to end this environmental travesty, we must be prepared for an intense struggle with vested interests. But responsible planetary stewardship leaves us with little choice but to commit to ending the plague of plastic pollution. Thirdly, in New York next month at the Intergovernmental Conference on Marine Biodiversity Beyond Areas of National Jurisdiction, known as BBNJ, we enter the concluding rounds of treaty negotiations which many nations, large and small, expect to result in robust and operable rules for the governance of the high seas. Fourthly, at the Convention on Biological Diversity Conference of the Parties, known as CBD COP15, to be held later this year in Kunming, China, there is strong member state backing for a new global target of placing 30% of the planet under protection by 2030, the so-called 30 by 30 target. Fifthly, the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon, 27 June to 1st July, will scale up ocean action based on science and innovation, launching a great raft of solutions with heavy emphasis on partnerships. And lastly, at UNFCCC COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, in November, the bar is projected to significantly rise on ambition, climate adaptation, and finance. COP27 is pivotal to stopping the decline of the ocean's health because climate business is ocean business. Taken together, these 6 critical ocean gatherings and more open the door to 2020 being the year humanity stops the decline of the ocean's health. I should also mention that this year is also the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture. Don't underestimate the importance of artisanal fisheries ever. They're an essential part of the jigsaw to progress. Last year, the UN launched its Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development and the Decade on Ecosystem Restoration to support and advance the realization of the 2030 Agenda as a whole. And then a firm outcome of last year's COP26 climate conference in Glasgow was to build ocean considerations into UNFCCC's ongoing work, which is expected to lead to solid progress with further negotiations in Geneva in mid-June to address issues such as ocean warming and acidification. These in turn will improve the ocean's health and secure its unique capacity to sequester carbon. From climate change to biodiversity loss to the decline of the ocean's health, everything is connected. Thus, it is vital that the international community does not squander the unparalleled opportunities presented by this year's confluence of attention on the needs for decisive ocean action. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, COP26 did not take us out of the Code Red for Humanity territory that the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres declared last year. The last-minute watering down of language on the phase-out of coal at COP26 was very disappointing for most of us, but especially for small island developing states, which as a result must now continue to suffer the consequences of rising sea levels, escalating tropical storms, and the death of their coral reefs. In this regard, Secretary General Guterres said the Glasgow Climate Pact was an important step, but was not enough. Keep alive the goal of limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, the Secretary General said it was time for us to go into emergency mode, ending fossil fuel subsidies, phasing out coal, putting a price on carbon, protecting vulnerable communities, and delivering the $100 billion climate finance commitment. To quote, "We did not achieve these goals at this conference," he said, "but we have some building blocks for progress," end of quote. That progress now takes us in the direction of COP27 in Egypt, where countries are expected next year to report progress towards greater climate ambition. But in the meantime, the atmosphere and the ocean get hotter and hotter. Without exception, we should all consider how we are going to work to assist the progress that we all know is so sorely required. To start with, we're all called upon to govern our activities with a logical and ethical dedication to sustainability. We need to agree that the time has come to accept that linear exploitation of finite planetary resources is a dead-end street, and that we've reached a point on humanity's path whereupon global transformation to circular recycling systems of production and consumption has become a straightforward matter of survival or not. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in winding up my remarks today, lest there remains doubt in anybody's mind, I'd like to ingrain the fact that SDG 14's nemesis is humankind's continuing burning of fossil fuels. The massive scale at which we burn fossil fuels, creating the greenhouse gases blanketing our atmosphere, is commensurately changing the composition of the ocean. The ocean has absorbed 90% of the heat from global temperature rises. So it shouldn't be a surprise that immense marine changes are underway and that we now witness such phenomena as escalating marine heat waves and the death of coral reefs. Meanwhile, it is tragic to contemplate that if present global warming trends continue, the 21st century will witness widespread saltwater engulfment of low-lying land, of atolls and river deltas that have for thousands of years been home to biodiversity, food production, and unique manifestations of human culture. As mentioned, UN member states have mandated the second UN Ocean Conference to be held in Lisbon, June 27th to July 1st this year. I have a strong belief that, like the first UN Ocean Conference in 2017, the Lisbon Conference in 2020 will prove to be a game changer for ocean action around the world, based on that wise trifecta of science, solutions, and partnerships. And I hope to meet many of you in Lisbon. SDG 14 is a noble pursuit for us all to follow, a pursuit that has at its heart the sustainable blue economy and an underlying ethos of living in harmony with Mother Nature. It is thus that I mention that on the shoulders of the conference, we're organizing a Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum on 27th of June in Lisbon's adjoining city of Cascais, which will have far-reaching business sector relevance. We have billions of people to feed and protect on this planet through the Sustainable Blue Economy. If we give far greater attention and resources to it and its constituents of science, innovation, and technology, and to the promotion of circularity and the tackling of wastage, we will establish the future food security, energy requirements, and healthy conditions we seek. There are many of our best in the fields of science, business, and governance who view the sustainable blue economy as the basis of human security as we journey into the planet-warming conditions of the 21st century. As a loving grandfather to 4 young girls, I travel in their wise company. May intergenerational justice rule our thinking. Henceforth, all of our life-sustaining planning decisions will have to be made in the light of the well-being of our planetary ecosystem, for within it, the survival of our species will be decided. The sustainable blue economy holds the key. I thank you for your attention.